Assalamu alaikum, strong believers. This is Malik Pai, and I'm hoping that you guys are staying strong because strong believer is better than a weak believer. Hopefully all the negativity that's out there, we're trying to stay away from it. Staying positive, we got a lot of work to do. One of the ways that we can be strong and gain that strength is by remembering Allah much, keeping our tongue moist in His remembrance. It's not rocket science, but there are some things that we should know, such as there are some dhikr or remembrance of Allah that are mandatory. Some are haram. Some are, permissible in certain situations and not permissible in other situations. So we'll be covering these little topics here and there about remembering Allah. But before we do that, just a reminder, make sure you hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so, and don't forget to hit the bell icon so you get notification as we come up with different videos on Malik Pai. Alright, welcome back. Let's get started. Dhikr, remembering Allah. So many benefits, so many virtues. A lot of times when you're just driving, guys, this is, the life that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us. Don't waste it. When you're driving, for example, or there's always these times that we're just kind of sitting around doing nothing. In those moments, make sure that you are keeping yourself busy instead of just watching TV, playing video games or so on, just to keep yourself busy. One of the best things that you can do is just remember Allah, because imagine how many points or how much reward that you could be just gaining, which are eventually going to help you in your afterlife. All the bad that we might have done, we know that good that we do erases the bad deeds that we have done. And some of these words are very short, very sweet, very easy on tongue, but very heavy on scale. So let's talk about some of the ones that are obligatory. Of course, the Quran that we recite, like surah Fatiha, or when we say Allahu Akbar to start the prayer, that is obligatory, right? So this is one of the remembrance of Allah that is mandatory in the case of prayer. Also greeting. When somebody says salam to you, you have to say walaikum salam. You have to at least return the equal greeting or better. So greeting or saying bismillah when you're about to slaughter an animal in the name of Allah, so you have to say that as well. So those are the situations, and there's more, but this is just an example of situations where remembrance of Allah is obligatory. Now let's talk about some of the azkar or remembrance of Allah, some of the words that might be impermissible. Top one where it has some element of shirk. Back in the days, people used to, when they will start prayer, they will actually say things like, may salam be upon Allah. And Prophet ﷺ told us that no, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the source of salam. He is salam in itself, the source of peace. You should be asking Him for peace, not saying that, oh, may Allah have peace, right? It's not for Him, it's for us. He is the source. So Allahumma anta salam. Allah, you are salam. Wa minka salam. And from you is salam. Tabarakta ya zal jalali wal ikram. So that's one of the remembrance of Allah, that we should remind ourselves that Allah is the source of salam. We shouldn't be praying for Allah, but we should be praying from Allah, right? We should be praying to Allah. So make sure your azkar, whatever you're remembering, first of all, keep it simple, keep it easy. Don't come up with your own azkar, or don't try to be creative. Come up with azkar that that are taught by Prophet Muhammad that are in the Quran. Something that might be shocking to you, this actually happens a lot in the Indo-Pak world. You'll be sitting around in a gathering, in a circle, and you'll be reciting Allahu, 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 right? And if you say it in a group, it will sound so cool that you will actually get pumped, you'll get fired up, your iman will get boosted, because these words, just when it's just humming together by like hundreds of people in a group, that is something that you would say, oh man, these are beautiful words, and all you're saying is Allahu, Allahu. But 30 people, 40 people, 50, hundreds, all you guys in the gathering will say it. It will actually pump you up. But is that the way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught us to remember Him? That we sit in a gathering and we just say His name, Allahu. There's no azkar from the hadith, from the Prophet ﷺ saying that just has the word Allah, right? It will say Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, right? Something will be added with it, but never by itself. But there's a lot of group of Muslims who are just saying that word. And even if it boosts your iman or gives you that little energy or that, that closeness to Allah, if it is not taught by Allah or if it's not something that is in the teaching of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, don't do it. Stay away from those. Okay. Another is I was just at a Friday prayer last week, and I'm seeing this guy who's like, you know what? Yep. He's listening to the khutbah, but he's like, I don't want to waste my time. I want to remember Allah. So he starts reading Quran, right? While the khutbah is happening. But you got to realize that khutbah is part of the prayer. And you cannot be doing any azkar. Don't even say Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, or start reading Quran while you're listening to the sermon. Make sure you pay 100% attention to the khatib. All right, the person who's giving the sermon, to the imam. Don't grab a Quran and start reading it, and when the prayer starts, you say, oh, that's the important part. No, the teaching on Friday, the khutbah, the sermon is part of the Friday prayer. Don't be reading Quran, even if it's something good, even if these are best azkar that you have memorized and they're so beautiful. Do not say them while you're listening to the sermon. Now, other azkar or other remembrance of Allah that are recommended are, of course, while you're about to eat, when you finish eating, entering your house, exiting your house, entering the bathroom, exiting the bathroom, when you're about to travel, right? There's so many azkar for different situations. We'll probably have another video talking about some of the azkar that we should be reciting in the morning and evening, at nighttime before you go to sleep. Those are different opportunities throughout the day where we can remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so try to memorize those. So these are some of the keys, the key points about remembering Allah. Now we'll get into some of the benefits or some of the ayat that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned, talking about how great this act of worship is, where you're remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I'll be reciting some of the translation of some of the verses from the Quran or sayings of the Prophet to give you a little bit more incentive, more excitement on why you should be remembering Allah. So high level, the points that we have mentioned so far are talking about the do's and don'ts. Very little like situations where you cannot do dhikr. Situations where you should, or the remembrance that you're doing should be based on what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught us, or what Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam's teaching is. Don't come up with your own stuff. And even if, let's say, you want to say something, make some dua, don't make sure that it doesn't have any elements of shirk in it. Now, before we get into the topic about some of the verses of the Quran that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned about dhikr, just want to remind everyone, make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Give me one of these if you're liking this video, and of course other videos. Share this message with others. Don't forget to comment. I want to hear from you guys. What are some of your favorite adhkar? What are some of the things that you say throughout the day that keeps you motivating? Remember, there's people who are reading these comments, and I read them too. So this could be a good way of sharing some advice to myself, to other Muslims, and who knows, inshallah, if other people start doing this because you taught them something, you could be getting a reward for it. My brother-in-law, we were just having this conversation today about when he's about to start eating, there's a Muslim coworker at work. He will just say, like, did you say bismillah? And he'll be like, oh yeah, sorry, I forgot. And he will say bismillah and he'll start eating. Now, he started doing that at home. So when he went home, when he's sitting with his parents, his dad is about to eat. He's like, hey dad, did you say bismillah? And dad will be like, oh no, I didn't. Everybody on the table, did you say bismillah? Hey, thanks for reminding. And they'll start. So imagine it all started with this coworker, and then he took those good habits, went home and shared the same love, same advice with his family. And now that person, the coworker, would be getting reward. So it's something that you should be, I'll be encouraging myself and you to whatever you learn, share it with others. Who knows that how much reward you will be accumulating, and then on the day of judgment you meet your Lord, you meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you have lots of reward in your books. So some of the verses, and then real quick, and then we'll end with that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, those who believe in the oneness of Allah, meaning the Islamic monotheism, and whose hearts find rest in the remembrance of Allah, verily in the remembrance of Allah do hearts find rest. Is he whose heart Allah has opened to Islam, so that he is in light from his Lord. So woe to those whose hearts are hardened against remembrance of Allah, they are in plain error. This is a warning that those who are staying away or against the remembrance of Allah, their hearts are hardened and they're in error. Therefore, remember me by praying and glorifying Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and I will remember you. If you mention Allah in a gathering, Allah will mention you in a gathering better than this. Imagine Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioning you, Abdullah, Imran, Omar, right? Aisha, Khadija, all you guys, us Muslims. Remember, while you're remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will remember you in a gathering of angels, right? So how great is that? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is associating remembrance of Allah by giving you success. He's saying, and remember Allah much that you may be successful. So successfulness in this life is actually linked with remembrance of Allah. And the men and the women who remember Allah much with their hearts and tongues, Allah has prepared for them forgiveness and a great reward, which is paradise. So remembering Allah will get you paradise. And I'm going to end with a hadith which is very powerful, and some of the words that usually I like to recite when I'm driving, and if I'm not listening to a lecture or so on or anything else. This is something that I keep myself busy with, so by the time you get to work, inshallah, I have accumulated a lot of reward. The hadith says that 2 words that are very light on the tongue and heavy in the balance and beloved to the most merciful are Subhanallahi wa bihamdihi, which means glory be to Allah, or how perfect or how far from imperfection is Allah, wa bihamdihi, and all praise to him. And then Subhanallah al-Azim, and how perfect is Allah, the Almighty, the Great. So very light on tongue, meaning they're very easy to recite, but very heavy on scale, meaning there's a lot of reward in it. So do yourself a favor, stop wasting time. Remember the some of the time that we could be using and being productive is by just remembering Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We touched upon a little bit of how do you remember Allah, what not to do. Don't be saying things that you haven't learned from Quran and Sunnah, and make sure that whatever you recite, there's a different situation for each azkar. Don't be reciting when you're exiting the house, don't be reciting the dua that you've been taught to enter the bathroom, right? It just doesn't make sense. There's specific azkar for a specific situation, and there are books that maybe we can have a video on another day, because this video is getting long, is talking about what are some of the adhkar, the daily adhkar in a different situation. Alhamdulillah, I was able to memorize, and for every situation there is one. I teach my kids as well, and I hope that you do the same. Stay strong, and inshallah we'll see you in the next video. This is Malik Pai. Assalamu alaikum.